gosh, it's Patty Dobrovolsky. And you know who's here in the house, right? Pete Cohen. I love Pete Cohen. And this is going to be the podcast with Pete Cohen to beat all podcasts, because Pete has been going through a really rough time because your wife, Hannah, is sick. And it's not, I mean, she's just been dealing with cancer for a long time. And so you've been coping with that. And so I have some questions for you. But first, I just want to say thank you for being here. And also, for those of you who don't know who Pete Cohen is, like, he's a TV celebrity and he's the people's coach. He's written over 17 books, you know, on your website. Really, it's amazing all the things you do to help other people on Clubhouse here, just doing in your coaching practice with speaking and Future You. So you're amazing. So thank you for taking the time to be here.
Well, it takes one to know one, right? And you said about thanking me for being here. Well, thank you for being there, because you know, when I think about who I call upon when I need help and I need support, there's a small group of people, you know, and you are one of those people, Patty, that I always think, well, you're someone I reach out to, someone I seek counsel, someone I seek advice. And I think if I didn't have that, I would really struggle.
Well, and I would say back at you, because I think that when we started to do peer coaching with each other, it really changed everything for both of us. Really, it sort of up-leveled the game. Not that other people don't do that, but I think that it's something important to remember that you need a coach. That's all there is to it. I feel like that I'm so much better as a person. And part of it is that when I am talking to you, I don't just feel the relevance of what you're saying. I feel the impact. And that's one of the things that you promise as a keynote speaker, that it's not going to just be relevant, but it will have a long lasting impact. And I would say for sure, that's the impact for me. So thank you.
Well, when you say that, I just reflect on being there for other people. And there's a couple of things, you know, I wish I was there for you more. And I know what you might say in return to that. And you know, because I'm being there so much for my wife right now, which is true. But when I think about where I put my energy in my life and the things I do, a lot of that is wasted, when really I could put that energy and focus on the people that really are supporting me. And you are one of those people, Patty. You know, I really care about you. I love you. I love the work that you do. I just love who you are. And it was fascinating the other day because I met a lady who you've known for 30 years. And it was really interesting hearing what she said about you, you know, because I don't know who was it that said success is what people are saying about you when you're not there. You know?
Well, and I would say that's so true of what people say about you as well. And she wrote me after that and said, he's such an amazing person. I'm going to try to go to his Clubhouse all the time because it was so inspiring. And I would say that's true. You are an inspirator. Now, I want to know, Pete, this is a very difficult period for you. So how do you stay inspired when you're going through something hard yourself? What do you do to get up in the morning and get going and go work out and all that stuff that you do?
Well, maybe let's just give a little bit of context to this. Let's presuppose that people listening to this podcast don't know our story. But our story, of all the stories that I've ever had in my life, our story is truly like, you couldn't make it up, you know, how we met, how we became friends. And we became friends because of 13 years ago when my wife was originally diagnosed, and I had a coach who lived in Dallas, which is where you live right now. He's not alive anymore. Look, I've got a picture of him here for those of you that are watching. And I called him up and I said to him, what should I do? You know, and he said, find people that are still alive and ask her what she's going to do when she gets better. And I said, but she's only been given 18 months. And he just went, I just remember it was like it was yesterday. He went, so what? And then there was this real pause, like, excuse me, you just said, so what? He said, people defy the odds all the time.
That's right.
And I didn't ask her that question, what are you going to do when you get better? for about 3 years. I found a treatment in Houston and we went there and it was incredible, you know, another chance of life. But always the back of my mind, I was thinking something could happen, you know, and unfortunately 11 years later, 12 years later, it came back. But when I asked her after 3 years, Raphael asked me to ask you what you're going to do when you get better. She started to cry. And Patty, you know, I was really ignorant at the time because I thought maybe she doesn't have a future, which is ridiculous. Everybody has a future.
That's right.
Everyone pictures. And that's why one of the things I've learned from you. So then I remember going into the room I worked in and I Googled, draw your future. And what came up? Well, surprise, surprise, Patty Dobrovolsky. And I watched your TED talk.
Yeah.
And my wife watched it and we drew our future. She drew a house. We moved to that house. You and I became, I mean, it's more to the story, but you and I have become great friends, you know, best friends. And my wife, we've worked together in various parts of the world. You've come to my events here in the UK. You're coming back over here in June. I mean, we're friends for life.
That's right.
But let's get to the answer to the question, which is, she got re-diagnosed and then I found a treatment in Germany, which again, it was like a miracle. Literally, she was dying and literally her health just improved miraculously. Then she got COVID. And then it seems like it's all gone downhill. And I just feel like I've been on this massive roller coaster. So you ask me what I'm doing. Well, one thing I'm doing today is I'm actually talking to a psychotherapist because I want to talk to someone who has helped people navigate through the terrain that I'm going through, because I've never been in this space before. And I want to work through this. That's one thing. But the other thing, Patty, is I still get up early in the morning. I still have my rituals and I still have a focus that is beyond where I'm at, which is all about the future. So working on that and working on pouring into other people. And I want to ask you, why do you think that's important, that despite what you're going through, to have something that keeps you going through something that is very difficult and very uncertain?
Well, I mean, I'm going to ask you this question too. It's really important. I'll just say, when you have a future that you're looking forward to, you know, it is the thing that pulls you through. And so even now, when Hannah's in this state that she's in, for her to have a future goal, you know, is incredibly important. And for both of you to have that future goal, because, and this is what Raphael said, you know, you don't know what the future is. So you can pretend and you can predict all that you want. But if you predict based on worry and fear, that's what you create. And so you have to be open to the possibility that anything can happen, and also know that everything is in its rightful place. So there are two things at the same time. So it seems like a dichotomy, but in fact, it's important to have a vision that no matter what does occur, that you will be prepared for it, handle it, you know, have the most incredible experience, and that you will see yourself at a larger place. And so you have to expand into the person that you want to become in order to face the challenges that you're in right now.
I mean, it's really profound to think like that. And I wonder, I can do that and I am doing that. But I remember when we had a conversation, maybe now a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and you said, Pete, you got to make the choice. You either choose love or fear. Which one? And then you said, it's not that if you choose love, there is no fear. It's just a lot easier to move through the fear. And I suppose, I know this is my biggest test. I know I'm right now, I'm in the biggest test of my entire life. And I have been through a few, probably a bit like yourself. But I know in a weird way, like you said, I need this, which is crazy to think like that, right? And also, I will get through this.
Yeah, well, and what you're saying, I need this. So for those of you that are listening, you know, we're talking here about water rising to its level. So really the water rises to where you can still keep your head above the water. This is what life is about. It's about you learning to maintain yourself above the water level, but know that the water is always rising. because that's what it does. That's what life is set up, is for you to understand yourself better, to love better, to expand into this space. And for you, Pete, like how do you get your mind in the right space to help other people despite what's happening?
I think the older I get, the wiser I get, the more curious I become,
Yeah.
the more instinctive I become. When someone's talking, you just get a sense. But I don't know, whether it's my purpose in life or what you might call it. What I love to do is I love to speak. I love to listen.
Yes.
I love to learn. I
Yeah.
love to share. I love to give people different perspective of things. I love to have an audience. When I was like you, when I was young, very young, I wanted to be an actor, but I had real problems learning lines. So next thing I do, I found myself on stages teaching aerobics to, a few hundred people. And then it seemed, I don't know, I then started teaching weight loss in front of people. And then before I knew, I was on stages speaking all over the world.
Yeah.
And I think, how did I get here? I
Yeah.
got there because I suppose that's what I love to do. So whether it's with a microphone, I just love to speak and share. And I think, and I suppose just knowing that's what keeps me going, or not even keeps me going, it's what makes me vibrate. It's what makes me
who you are.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, what do you think? I mean, you know me well enough to know, why do we, because I mean, some people might say, oh, you're just, what's the word? What's that word when it's a distraction? I mean, no, it's not. I mean, for me, a distraction would be aimlessly looking at something on social media or watching television for hours. No, it's not a distraction. It's like, I don't know. I also want to be an example to other people. I really want people to see, well, if he can do that when he's going through that, what can I go through?
Well, and I would say part of it is that you've tapped into your vein of service. Like, this is your vein of service. When I sit in on a clubhouse room where you're the moderator, I feel like, wow, that's his jam. I mean, you're there doing this and you're serving other people. But what's true is you're also a very fantastic listener. And so what are you listening for when you say you're listening to people? What do you listen for?
Oh, God, that's a big question. I don't actually know. I'm just curious. It's just that curiosity of where someone is. That is a really hard question to answer. I don't know what I'm listening for. I'm just creating a space for someone to be heard. And who knows what comes out of that conversation? I think that's where the magic comes, right?
That's right.
But
you've listened to people where I have, in a way, there's a way in which you can beautifully spin whatever the person's going through to help them feel empowered to make change. And why is that important for people to feel empowered to make change?
I think it's to be humane. It's common humanity.
Yeah.
When my coach was alive, he grew up in the Philippines. He was 8 of 16 brothers and sisters. His father was a Catholic minister. Every book that came to the island, Raphael had a photographic memory. So he was asked to read every single book. So he's read, like, he gave up reading eventually. He said, I've read enough. But he used to read all these books. And if there was any blaspheming, the book wasn't allowed on the island. So you can imagine he also read the Bible. And he said to me, in the Old Testament, it said the Jewish people were chosen by God to spread humanity. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not. I don't even want to go down that road. But the whole concept of being humane, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian, whether you're gay, I mean, who cares? Just be humane. And what does it mean to be humane? I think to be a humane being is to be loving. It's to be kind. It's to listen. I don't know. What does it mean to you to be a humane human being?
Well, I would say you listed all of the things, but I also think that it has to be humane means that you take the power of being human and that you transcend that you transcend that and you step into the godlike part of yourself, right? Which is this piece of love. And so that means that you are more important than I am, that we are more important than just the individual self, so that we're always just letting the universe use us as a vehicle for good. I mean, that's the declaration that I spend most of my time trying to get myself to reframe, inside, why am I here? What am I doing? Declare myself an open channel for whatever needs to happen that will be good and do good in the world. Right. And that's really, to me, the essence of being humane.
So we know that the Declaration of Independence in America, was it Jefferson?
Yes.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's a lovely idea, but I think it's one of the reasons why there's so many problems in the world, because people are pursuing something that they're never going to get. And if they get, it's just that hedonistic, adaptation. So when you get something you want more, you're never enough.
Yeah.
Rather than coming from the place of I am enough. And I like what you said there about your declaration. And I want to spin this because you helped me. I want to understand more about this, because with this lady who, it's amazing that this lady, the other day I met her, you've known her for 30 years. And I said, how did you guys know each other?
Yeah. Kimberly
said,
Young.
Yeah. Well, you said you're part of the same spiritual movement. And, to be spiritual is a conversation. I mean, the sort of conversation we're having right now, for some people, it might be quite hard for some people to get their head around being loving, and especially people that work in a company or business. It's like, oh, we're not going to be like that. We've got a job to do. We don't need to be, we don't need to be nice and kind. We got to do the job. Right.
That's right.
We know that.
Well, I mean, that's the crusty outside that we like to put on so that we can go out in the world so that we're not hurt in some way. And that somebody, that means you have to be vulnerable if you're going to talk about love.
Yeah. Yeah. I still find it. Still find it so fascinating.
But I think, don't you feel like there are some parts of yourself? I find that there are some parts of myself that are still so crusty. I think, oh, God, like I'll say or do something. I'll think, really? Did you just do that? Oh, my gosh.
Well, that's because I think that's because we're all just imperfect. And I was listening to something before. We've all been tainted by how we've been brought up to think and to believe and to fit in. But to find that unique expression of who you are, that's a journey that isn't encouraged. It's definitely not encouraged in the workplace, is it? Like,
no, it's not. I mean, So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, we're both doing that.
That's how we are.
Well, that's because we're friends. That's because we're friends, first and foremost. And I can't wait to see you. You're coming over here in June.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic.
And we're doing some work together. And I know so many. I've introduced you to so many people, and you've introduced me to so many people. And that's another wonderfully humane thing to do when you find something that's really good and great. You just tell people about it.
That's
because
right.
People can share. We can share what we have, and I think that's another thing I'm driven to do, is to share what I know, to share what I have. But I want to, go back, if it's okay with you. I know that this is not scripted,
No.
But when we talk about being spiritual, I mean, that was a word. If you said that to me 30 years ago, I would have said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But now I have an idea and a concept of the spirit within me, the part of me that is
connected.
Is me, the essence of me that will be here long after I die. Yeah. But what does that mean to you to be spiritual?
Well, gosh, I can't remember a time, even when I was a child, that I didn't feel like I was here for a purpose, that I was born and living in the world. And so my discovery became, what am I all about? Looking for that. And so to me, spiritual gets a bad rap, even that word, because what I'm thinking about is that I'm connected to the universe. I'm made up of all of the particles of things, but there's an inner part of me that knows more and is more that is always in a state of guiding me. And that there are, I don't know how it happens, but when you get an intuitive nudge, when you're in Clubhouse and you think, oh, that you just say it, you don't censor it. And to me, that's your connection to whatever the universe is made up of. So I don't care if you're Christian, you're Buddhist, you're Ekist, like I study that religion, Ekankar, or that spiritual path. And it's all about the path of freedom, because that's what life is about, is that you are free to determine what happens. I'm not talking about that you're free to determine fate, right? But I think there are some things that are the mystery of how life happens. But the golden thread that runs through life is this thread of love and connection. And that to me is what spirituality is. It's attaching your awareness to the fact that you are part of that golden thread, and that everyone that you touch or touches you is part of that too. And everything is connected. We think that dreams just are backwash of what we need to process. Now, I think dreams are spiritual, and that they're real. And that if you can understand that we're separated just by some piece of the planet, but we are never separated, you and I. If I'm thinking of you, you call me, you send something, or vice versa. And everyone in the world has this connection. And we turn down the connection with, everything, any substance, because we're in the physical world. And so we've got alcohol and drugs, and we've got social media, and we've got ego, and, all those things that are just baiting us to.
I think that's why when I'm running a room. So for those people who don't know what Clubhouse is, it's a social media audio app where people can speak and be heard and listen. And I think and
talk about things that are important, right? Or share stories from their lives that are so moving and incredible.
Or go into other rooms where people are just trying to slag people off and I'm right and you're wrong. Because I think that's one of the biggest issues in the world right now is
the division,
kind of the right and wrong, the division. I mean, it's crazy, rather than, hey, let's unite. Because the way I look at everything, Patty, is I love the differences. I celebrate differences. But then behind the differences, like you said, I think we're all the same. It's whether you like it or not, we are all made of the same thing. And I just had a bit of epiphany when you were speaking, because it's creating the space where everyone can feel connected. They're all part of something, and everyone has a space at the table. When Raphael was a young man and he worked with World Hunger, living and watching indigenous people around the world, a whole group of them, the scientists, they weren't allowed to interfere. They just had to watch. And he said the one thing that he saw everywhere, every single place, was they had a circle. And they either sat in the circle in the morning or sat in the circle at night, or if there was a problem, everyone sat at the circle, or many people did. And it was a space where would respect your elders, because the elders would often be leading a tribe. And you put your children in the circle and celebrate your children. And there was a space for everybody. And I suppose that's what I like, is there's a space for everybody here. Let's let everyone be heard.
Well, and if you think about it, like, this is the physical world. This is a warring world where there is this sort of energetic pull between good and evil. I mean, I'm using that in a weird way, but I think that there is what most goes up must come down, right? This is the law of cause and effect. And so we live in this world, but we're not of this world. So it's important for people to remember, I think, that no matter what comes your way, and we're circling back to you and what you've been going through, no matter what comes your way, it's there to teach you something. And the mystery is, what am I here to learn? And so if this happened to me, what am I learning from the experience of Hannah, and my relationship? What am I learning from being in Clubhouse and helping people? What am I learning from listening to this podcast? what does this teach me about myself so that I can go back and do what I do even better, even bigger, if that's what I want to do.
Well, I wonder how many people who are listening to this have had experience in their life that was very difficult. And then you look back now and you think, well,
Yeah.
that was kind of the making of me, you know? For
Yeah.
me now, I think for the first time in my life, I'm in something difficult. And now I have that awareness of there's a big learning here, massive. I just haven't figured out all aspects of it. I know already a few of them. One of them is to let her give love and be loved. Like,
Yeah.
that's a big one. The other is to be where I am as much as possible, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a place of pain and sadness and fear and loneliness and confusion, right?
Yeah, and also just the realization of having been on a roller coaster literally for a year of
Yeah.
fighting, of going backwards and forwards to Germany and seeing my wife going through traumatic experience, and then
Yeah.
realizing that we've just stepped off that roller coaster, and now I don't mind telling you, I'm exhausted, you
Yes.
know, because my body's quite clearly saying you need to rest, you know.
Yeah. Well,
And it's like that whole genius thing, which again, Patty, if you think about how we are connected, at the time
yeah.
we connected, I was already looking at that word genius and
Yes.
you know, being creative. And I've learned from you that I am a creator and I'm an
Yeah.
artist and I've
Yeah.
got this opportunity. And the only way to do that is to be in contact with my genius. So
Yeah.
when you say genius, do you mean like connecting to the spirit of who you are? Is that the
Yeah.
genius?
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody, with you and I have had this conversation with many people before, people believe that genius is a person, but no, genius is you tapping into the innate part of yourself that is able to handle anything, right? And but that takes you, A, being present to that, right? And B, being open to that. And then C, acting on that, right? And so, I mean, you can
Well,
get all the
that's where
great insights, but
yeah, but
well,
that's
I
where
love, yeah,
that's where the difficulty comes. Sorry to interrupt you. That's where the
yes,
difficulty comes, right? It's
yeah.
the acting upon that.
Yes,
Uh,
because I think that lots of things interfere with that, and distraction's one of them, but fear is the second one. So for you in this moment in time, this is, I mean, you've been Sisyphus with the rock, pushing the rock up the hill and then it rolls back down, and then pushing it up the hill and then it rolls back down. And now, you're like
yeah.
with the rock, and you're looking at the rock and you're like, I'm not pushing that thing up that hill right
No, I
now.
can't.
No,
It's
I got to sit down and lean against the rock and actually learn from the rock, right? Because what you the other thing that I think happened as a result of all of this is you learn to listen better. Clubhouse happened, Hannah happened, all this stuff, and you listened so much more deeply than you ever listened before. And this to me is one thing, huge benefit that occurred, because now you are listening on all levels, right? You're not just listening to the things people are saying. You're not just listening to yourself, right? Talking in your head. You're listening to life, which is speaking to you all the time and giving you tips about what to do. And the only way you can listen is when you get quiet. So this, to me, is a fantastic moment. So when you're leaning up against that rock, Pete, what do you hear in the moment?
first off, I love that whatever you want to call it, picture of I'm not pushing that rock up the hill.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop for a little while. You know, and that is an alien thing for me.
Definitely.
So, you know, even though I meditate and practice Wim Hof breathing and that's different because there's still motion, there's still moving. This is like actually just stop. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And that feels unusual. It feels weird, but I know that the rock is telling me right now, just stop. You don't have to push me. Just stop. And let's take a breath
Yeah.
and we'll make another move, but the move won't be as intense.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, when you reflect on that, just again, and once again, it's just like, I feel like I go to sleep for a week because we're only human, right? A bit,
Yeah.
I suppose to me, to recognize what that means to be only human is to recognize that I'm not perfect. And like you said before, you realize sometimes that there are things about yourself and there's something to learn, but it's that ability to listen.
And
And a
listen
world,
to yourself, saying, this is exhausting. So for those of you that are listening and you're going through something hard, take a page out of Pete's book, sit down with the rock for a little bit and let yourself rest, because in the restful state, you're going to get insight about what next. And I don't think that we do that enough. I don't know about you, but I find myself like that little mouse in that wheel going round and round and round. Even though I know I don't want to do that, I still have like multiple things that I'm juggling, just like you. We're juggling speaking and talking and coaching and being and all of the things. But the most important thing is that we remember we're here. It's a beautiful thing.
it's interesting, isn't it? Well, for me, having a conversation like this, it just makes me once again reflect. And there was something, but that's gone. I'm sure it might come back in a minute. But the other thing is just about having much more of an idea. I know already, like you said, I'm a much better listener. I was with a friend of mine yesterday who's also going through a very difficult time,
Yeah.
and just being there for him and letting him speak and realizing that that was probably the best thing I could do, just to listen.
Yeah.
And also another friend of mine who, his wife, he has Parkinson's disease and his wife has terminal cancer as well.
Wow.
And we have been working together, just working on a couple of projects. And again, we've said to each other, we will help people who in the future who are going through
Yes.
something like this, which was another reason why we
Yeah.
have to go through this.
Yes.
We have to, because other people will need us to help them go
Yes.
through something like that. And isn't that not the point of life as well, to
Yes.
pass on the wisdom that has been passed on to you?
Well, and to help people. I mean, that's the whole point, right? So we're here to serve. So, and if your service is around whatever it is that you do that, serve that, and allow yourself to, just like a little flower in your garden, unfold so that you can share what the next thing is that you learned and the next thing. And often, we talk about things that we're struggling with because that helps us to understand them better. What will I do now? How can I get through this now? I don't know about you, but when I first started doing Draw Your Future, and I gave that TED Talk, I made that stuff up and then it became reality. That's what's true.
Well, I can't wait. I mentor like a few hundred fitness business owners, and you're coming over to this event in June.
Yeah.
And I can't wait because because knowing you now, like I know you after all these years, I can't wait for these guys to be able to draw a future that they see, that they're emotionally connected to, that they share with others. And they want to go and do it, and then think, you know what? That's another thing, Patty. I want to be a part of what other people are doing. I don't, when people tell you, "Oh, you're great, you did this for me," it's like that doesn't do it for me. I appreciate it, I really do,
Yeah.
but that's not where it's at. It's like I want to be a part of someone's success, and I also, it must be difficult. This again just come to mind. It must be difficult for you because you know my wife and you know me.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but I think you also know the importance of being there for us during our difficult time, as well as
Yeah.
being there for us during our great times. And you've just
Yes.
given me another perspective on that. Like, because I do that. I've just realized I do that when I know people
Yes.
that are struggling. There's something in me that goes, I didn't realize it, that I want to be a part of their
Yeah.
journey. It's more, I just want to be there for them, to let them know, you know what, you're not alone. I got your back.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that, I mean, this circles back to what we said at the beginning, that, you know, you need a coach, you need a friend, you know,
Yeah.
the people that actually have a dog even, you know, are more likely to live 7 years longer, right? So it's something about that connection. And I just can't thank you enough for the connection that we have and for all of the things that you are doing in the world. So I want to tell people, if you've never, you got to go to Pete Cohen's website, sign up for his speaker series or Future You. You know, he's got I'm sure you still have that 21-day.
No, I still have that 30-day.
30-day future.
30-day. You've done that program twice.
Yes,
Anyone
I
can
love
do
it.
It's absolutely free.
Yeah.
But you know,
yes,
Patty,
and I can't wait to see you, because this will give us a chance to really be together and help each other.
well, you'll be here in this room that I'm in right now. And I know we're going to put some new content together and put our genius. There's something magical that happens when, you know, one becomes two. I think two, without anyone else coming in the room, we become three, you know? So Patty, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to the next time.
Me too, Pete. Thank you for taking the time with us today. And so just follow Pete Cohen, you know, get in there. He's Pete Cohen _ on Instagram. Isn't that right? Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to reach him. And you can find out about Clubhouse. If you've never been on Clubhouse, you got to go, because his rooms there are incredible. And you'll learn so much from just listening to him and hearing some of the wisdom that he imparts to other people, and the people sharing these incredible stories. So thanks for taking the time, Pete. I love you so much.
I love you.
Okay. Have a fantastic day, everybody. Go out and share your creative genius with the world. Let's do this.
Your creative genius.